So, okay. Hi, Reem. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm so great. I am thrilled to have you here. So, everyone who is watching, this is one of my favorite clients, although I love all my clients. Reem and I have been working for quite some time together, and she has now completed my coaching program. So,
Yay.
we are doing a little interview to see what brought her to Nadia Dayala coaching, what results she's seen, and transformation she's had and what she's doing moving forward. So, Reem, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little about yourself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Reem I am a pediatrician in Chicago. I finished my residency last June, which is around the time I started working with Nadia. I really enjoy it.
Me too.
It was great.
Great. So I guess we'll get started. This is going to be Q&A style. What made you start looking for a coach in the first place?
Yeah, I had finished my residency in June, and one of my friends started coaching, and it told me a little bit more about what coaching was. And she described it as something as a tool to enhance good parts of your life or parts that you needed work on. And so for me, I found myself a very successful person, but needing more help in leadership roles and standing up in my own, in my own bones whenever I was trying to make an argument or trying to persuade someone in some sort of way. And so I found coaching through my friend, and she actually led me to Nadia.
Awesome. So, what results were you really? I hear leadership, I hear standing in your own skin and authentic values. And, what results and changes were you really looking to create in your life and in your career when you were considering coaching?
Yeah, I think I wanted a little bit more clarity with what I wanted to achieve in my life. At that point, when you finish residency, it's kind of really vague what you're supposed to do next. Usually, you get a job and you just wait for the next thing to come, and it's kind of a waiting game. And I was really looking to lock down goals with my life, goals with regards to my career, with regards to my love life, and with regards to how I felt with as being a person of a different ethnicity and with my parents being from a different country, how do I stand my own being in this country and being myself as compared to this person who is a daughter of my family, and just going through that whole route.
Yeah. So, what I've loved working about you is that there's just this whole interconnected pie. Every piece of you is so connected. And part of our work together, if I can share, was just really realizing that how you show up in, like your parents and as an immigrant, daughter of immigrants, and how you show up in your leadership and, love life, even like it was all very connected. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think as I worked more and more with you, I came to realize that these like pockets of things that I used to separate out were actually one and the same, that I was the same person at work, with my mom and dad, with my
Mhm.
friends, with the people I love, all these different things. It was just the same sort of things. And it was the same things that I would come up and bring to you every week. So I was like, I'm having difficulty talking to this person at work. I'm having difficulty talking to my boyfriend, having difficulty.
Yeah.
And realizing that it was just the same sort of recurrent attitudes and the same sort of fears that I had were just coming into play at different parts of my life.
Yeah, I love that. And it's just we just kept pulling the thread and pulling the thread over and over again and just really seeing that. So why did you actually choose to work with me? You saw my specialty. We had a couple calls before you joined on and enrolled,
Yeah.
but what made you actually sign up?
With that first clarity session, I felt something like, how you feel like an immediate connection with someone who I could talk to. You definitely pushed me in that first session and you gave me goals to meet, but you also did so in a way that I felt encouraged. I didn't shut down at the beginning, and I felt you
Mhm.
had a personality that was like exactly what you said, able to draw things out of me, but also recognized when it was time to stop. And I think that is very intuitive, and I felt like our relationships really fit evenly. And you, also as a person of color and as a person of an immigrant family background, understood where I was coming from, because the respect that comes in families who are really loyal to their own families and people who are loyal to their own families. You can't just throw that to the wayside, do your own thing. That
Mhm.
comes with experience. And I feel like you definitely had that. And I could tell right from the beginning.
And I love that you call that out. It just warms my heart. This is why I do the work, right? And there's just so much richness about you and how you can actually recognize that too. That this is such a huge part of your life, your cultural background, all your separate intersecting identities. And it just made our work so rich that you could bring all of you to the table.
I mean, it was you helped bring all of that out too. It's really hard for someone who is not usually open with other people, who tends to keep their emotions and to themselves. It was definitely a challenge, but I think you did it perfectly.
Thank you. And it takes two to tango, girl. This is a coaching relationship we had. So to take a step back, Reem and I started working September 2018 and just completed in May.
Yep.
So it's been quite some time, and my heart is just so much a part of you. And it's just such a pleasure to have this time and interview with you and to receive all these beautiful words.
I mean, I remember when we started, I was just wondering, like, how long is this going to last? Like, I didn't, it wasn't like, oh,
Mhm.
this is a time frame. It's going to be achieved in whatever amount of time. And we
Mhm.
set goals, but I think once we approached those, and I saw that I had achieved so many goals and was setting new ones, that I wanted to end up continuing for a longer period of time.
Yeah,
It was great.
awesome. We could continue on and on and on, but so the point about this was building sustainable change,
Yeah.
right? The point is you shouldn't have to need a coach after a certain period of time. And I have clients who, do 6 months minimum and a couple that are beyond a year and a half to close
Yeah.
to 2 years at this point. But for you, what have you achieved as a result of coaching together, and also on the thread of like sustainable change for you to go on without coaching? What are you set up with now?
Yeah, I guess I can comment in a couple of different places. With regards to my career, in medicine, it's a whole culture of training, and so you receive a lot of training to get into medical school. From medical school, you get a lot of training to go into residency, and then from residency, you get a lot of training to go into a fellowship or to pursue a job. And I think at the beginning when I was starting with Nadia, I felt that, what my next step was a fellowship. And through working with Nadia, I was able to tease out that maybe that was not what my goal was. Maybe my goal was actually getting and jumping into the deep end and pursuing a job. So, at the beginning, I was still applying to fellowship, didn't end up matching, and then ended up deciding, you know what, I want a job and I want to pursue a job in the places that I liked. So, went around and asked for a position at the places that I felt had turned me away for fellowship, and ended up getting a job in itself. So ended up getting the same job that I was going to get in 2 years after training. So I definitely felt that you pushed me to do the thing that I would have originally been totally afraid of doing if I would have never asked for this position. And I think especially in medicine, you get no training in negotiation at all. And we went through multiple sessions on how to
Yeah.
negotiate, how to argue what's your worth. And I think that was something that pushed me to get something that I would have never even imagined. And hindsight being 2020, look back at all the things that played out, and this is so much better than like what my path could have been otherwise.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of translate that a little bit more and just like reaffirm that really. So what it was is that Reem, like a boss, went exactly to the hospitals and the places that rejected her essentially or didn't match with her for fellowship.
Mhm.
And she said, knock, knock, give me a job anyway. I'm qualified. If I recall, they didn't even have job listings.
Yeah.
And part of our work was you going, you know what? I'm going to say I'm valuable. I want a job anyway, and I want to work here. And these people gave her job offers, and she negotiated like a boss and
It was,
literally
I mean,
got the job she was told by mentors and people who were in the field. you're going to need to do 2 more years of training before you can get that. And guess what? She got it. She's getting double the pay than what she would have gotten if she stayed in fellowship.
Yeah.
And I just want to like fluff that up a little bit and say that's a big freaking deal, girl.
Yeah, and it was like that confidence. I think it started with the little, the little task that we started at the beginning was saying like, show up for yourself, stand up to this, to this person who's kind of shutting you down. And then it was that same attitude that was like, you know what, I deserve this. And so like
Mm-hmm.
I just put my CV and my cover letter together and just like emailed it to people. And it, that attitude of just knowing your worth and really asking for what you deserve, it was something that really pushed me a long way with regards to my career and with regards to other relationships in my life.
Yeah, and I want to even dive a little bit into negotiations because that's my jam. You know
Yeah.
that I want to help close the leadership and wage gap for women of color across the board in corporate America. So I want to just like highlight the fact that I remember you were like, I asked for this, Nadia, and I asked for this, knowing that they'd probably say no, but I did
Yeah.
it anyway. And I got a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So what was that like to actually negotiate?
I mean, it was definitely thrilling. Like, it was just like, oh, I want, let me ask for X, Y, and Z. And once the things are laid out, you know that you're probably not going to get it, but it's worth it just to ask because then like,
Mm.
well, it's out on the table. And so if you put it out there at the beginning, then asking for something a second time or asking for something else just becomes so much easier. And we always hear about, in the workforce and how women go into the workforce and don't ask, and then men are so comfortable with asking that
Mhm.
you look at your position, you look at someone else and you just wish you asked for more. It is just that step of just like taking the leap and asking in the first place, because then it becomes like a positive feedback cycle where you're just like, well, let me ask for this, let me ask for that, let me ask for the next thing. So it was, even if you don't get everything, it's just a rush to even ask in the first place and you feel like you validated yourself. And I think that's the most important thing because you have said that I'm worth something, I'm worth asking for something. And once you go ahead and do it, you just prove that to yourself. And I think whether you get it or whether you don't, you've done that for yourself.
Right. And I'm just literally getting goosebumps, girl, listening to you because really you said some powerful things that I really couldn't say better myself. It's thrilling. You're
Yeah.
validating your experience. You're validating all that you've ever done, all the hard work in school, all the hard work in previous roles and jobs, all the personal and, even personal identity experience that you have and grown is validated in that step of I'm just going to ask for what I want, whether or not I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
And I
it's
think
so much
awesome you
fun.
did
Like,
it.
you just go back and you're just like, wow, I want to ask for more.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
like,
So I can see how that showed up in so many other negotiations in your relationships, personally and career wise, right? Not even just monetary, but negotiating difficult conversations or actual decision making processes.
yeah. And I think you found that those sort of tools that were put into place from the beginning, they come up even when you don't anticipate something being a problem. People are people and they tend to react to things that you may not even think are some things that are reactionary. And I think the approach that we learned together and we, put one foot in front of the other, I think you find yourself pulling back to those tools, especially during times where it just catches you off guard. And I think you learn to take a step back while being in the moment and like, it's all, all of life is a negotiation process. And you realize that, when something comes up randomly or when something you anticipate being a problem comes up, you just pull the tools that are happening and you realize it's not as difficult as you surmounted it to be from the beginning.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is in the moment, no matter how chaotic, how crazy, or how like frustrating or overwhelming it could be, you've learned how to distance yourself
Yeah.
and to take a step back and to be like, oh, this is actually not as bad as it feels initially.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think like that taking a step back, you take a step back and then you allow, the part of you that you have pulled yourself, like up throughout the session, that part of you kind of rises forward. And anyone's initial reaction towards any sort of difficulty or challenge in their life is always to kind of retreat, and that's human nature. But I think what you learn from coaching, especially with Nadia, you learn how to not retreat, but you take a step back and then you push forward, and that you push forward in a way that's not aggressive, that's not intimidating, that's really thoughtful. And I think that was a skill that really led me to achieve a lot of successes in different areas.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. It's really a special blend of it. And I think that's part of your superpower as well. Like you're not aggressive in nature, but you've got that force in you. So it's
Yeah.
was kind of like amplified, I would say, through our work together. Like,
Yeah.
no, I don't need to be X, like a jerk or this, that to get what I want.
And especially if you're not that aggressive person, there are definitely women or definitely lots of people who are have that sort of go-getter personality. But if you're not that and you try to like become that to match whatever attitude another person is bringing to you, it just doesn't work. Like you get overly emotional, you shut down. So recognizing the strengths in your own self is something that I definitely achieved through coaching, and
Yes.
taking a step back, pulling out those strengths, and then pushing forward was something that you like always pull through it through the coaching.
Yeah, yeah, you've got loads of superpowers, girl. But I was like, we gotta get those out. So what is different about your leadership now and how you show up in the world?
First of all, I would say it's recognizing that my leadership is worth it. And I think
Mm.
that is such a big change, because, because I am not that aggressive personality or anything like that. When we think of leaders, oftentimes we think of the person who's standing at the front of the podium and is like preaching to the crowds and saying like X, Y, or Z, follow me. And I think I recognized through leadership coaching and through Nadia that leadership is also about listening and helping other people achieve their own successes. And so pushing people and pushing yourself to do those was something that was, something I truly found through leadership coaching and through coaching with Nadia. To get like kind of specific about those sort of things, I would say that within a role, I'm the chief resident this year, and within that role, we have two other chief residents who have two different personalities. And sometimes it's really easy to let those personalities overshadow you, but you learn how to kind of navigate within those two personalities and to allow all three of you to show up and show your biggest attributes, your biggest skills, and then you all show up together as a team. And I think that's so much better than competing with one another. And I think you learn how to do that with other people. It's never a competition. You're helping each other and you're pulling each other along.
Mm.
And that's a skill in its own right. You're not standing up by yourself as a leader, but you're standing up together as leaders together. And I think that's so much more powerful than thinking you need to be the one who's like preaching and doing all these different things, especially if you're not that sort of person.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is such a strong skill, Reem, to be able to draw that collaboration from other people who are at a higher level with you and to be able to say, we all have powers, we all have skills and values that will complement each other if we work together rather than try to get on top or rather than me taking a step back for the sake of like no drama or no conflict, right?
Yeah. And it goes back to negotiation, right? Like you have
Mhm.
something that you want to achieve, and it's not going the way that you want it to, then you go back and you negotiate. You negotiate with the people who are telling you no, you negotiate with the people who are telling you yes, and you all come together and you work towards coming to a solution or a goal that may not have been your original goal, but is something that is just as good, if not better.
Yeah. And I just want to pick real quick at the fact that you said you negotiate again, even with the people who tell you no. Because one of my biggest things is negotiation does not end at no, it can start at no.
Yeah.
And the fact that even in simple relationships that are peer level or manager down, down up, right? And also in negotiations for your compensation, it's just you didn't stop at no. You
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah. And I think that's something you learn too. If there's someone who's just telling you no, 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 then you pull out your own worth, and you're not worth that no at all.
Mhm.
You've worked too hard in your life and you've gone through so many other struggles that like lots of other people have not gone through to like take someone who's just telling you no and just have it at face value. If they're not willing to negotiate, it's not worth it. Move to someone
Right.
else. There's definitely other people who are willing to negotiate and meet you more than halfway to get you where you need to go. So I think that's another skill that
Mm.
you learn, when to turn away from something that's just toxic.
Yeah, just toxic or not worth your time or
Yeah.
doesn't align with your values
Yeah.
even.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just like looking at you, girl, like, oh my God, she is a negotiations machine. And just like for you to truly understand that you can negotiate your influence, your relationships, and even your money value, right? Just constantly, I just feel you so comfortable at this point right now. And I couldn't be more proud to hear all of
Yeah.
this.
I mean, it's definitely a great feeling, because then you're just
Mhm.
like, well, you're not giving me what I want, or like you're not even meeting me more than halfway, then forget it. Like there's someone who's going to do that, and you just become more and more comfortable the more that you do it. So like you will start doing it with little things in your life, like, you know, picking what you want for dinner with your partner or something like that. You start negotiating things like that, or you start negotiating a trip, or you start negotiating with your friends something else, or then with your colleagues, then with your boss, and then on to your next job. And I think the more you become comfortable with this art of negotiation, the more that you realize it's like how the world works.
Yeah, it really is. It's everywhere. It
Yeah.
is. So I'd like to wrap this up and respect, your time here. And I'm just thank you so much for this beautiful Q&A and validating my calling and my experience. And I'm going to miss working with you
I
so much.
know. I
Of
think
course.
that's like the hard part, because, you definitely feel like, okay, like I think I have the skills, and you're going ahead and you're doing everything. And so then you come to the next session and you're like, well, I don't really know what I need to work on anymore, because I feel like I've worked on it. And I think, that was the hard part, was like not leaving a friendship, but you develop this friendship that's so special. And, you look forward to talking to, Nadia every week or every other week, whatever you end up doing. And it's something that is like there, it's constant, it's waiting, and you can always pull all the other stuff, but it's something that's so special. And I think the hard part is like, well, I've developed the skills, but does that mean like Nadia's gone? And I know the answer is no, but it's just like, it's not that constant thing anymore. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, we are forever connected. So working together or not, we are forever connected at this point. And I'm thrilled and very like genuinely excited to see you soar in your new role that you negotiated the crap out of and see what else comes from this sustainable change that you've built for yourself. My door is always open, of course, but I would love to kind of end this towards, what is like, how would you describe working with me to your best friend?
I mean, I've definitely talked to my best friend about this, and like, first word is always awesome. 100% fully recommend. Working with Nadia is like working, it's like taking that high school coach for like sports and putting it into your life and finding success through that.
Mm.
And I think, anyone could benefit from coaching. Even if you feel like you're like, got everything tied up in a fancy bow, which is like no one. I, yeah, I think anyone could benefit from it, and I fully recommend it. I'm always pushing my friends to do it. I'm just like, no, go do coaching. If it's a woman of color, I always recommend Nadia. If it's anyone else, I always recommend coaching in general. I think it's a valuable asset to your life, and it's worth every penny, every minute, every second of the whole thing is just totally worth it.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Well, that's awesome. And I just cannot rave how much I've loved working with you, and just it's so true how powerful a relationship can be in coaching, and really seeing you apply, whatever happens in the arena of our sessions is like, I just always have to say it's possible in the real world. It's possible in your real world relationships. And I saw you doing that with every single player in your life.
Yeah.
And it's just a pleasure to see you just like vibrant and shining, and I'm celebrating you always. So thank you so much, Reem.
You too. Thank you so much for everything. I have nothing but like pure joy and thanks every time I think of you. So I really appreciate it.
Same, same girl. Okay, so we are going to wrap this up. Are there any final thoughts you'd like to say to whoever is watching and listening before or
If you're watching and questioning, like I definitely questioned for a long period of time before I even reached out to Nadia, like there is no question, just do it. Like do that first session, see how it goes. And like, I think you will be pleasantly and like secretly, you already knew it was going to work out. Like surprise. It's the thing to do. Like, don't even hesitate. Just call.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up and end it. Thanks,
Okay.
Reem. I'll see you
Bye.
later.
See
Bye.
ya.